Weezer is one of those bands that you either love or hate. And even if you love them, you always end up hating them some point in their discography because throughout their 15 albums that are currently out, their discography is very up and down. I always compare it to a roller coaster ride. I mean, just when they start to lose fans with one album, they always reel them back in, only to lose them again with the following release after that. Like, it's just so... It's so weird the way Weezer puts out albums sometimes, and I think for the most part, fans know what albums they love, and fans know which albums of theirs that they hate. There really is no in-between, except with one Weezer album. The only Weezer album where, when I've heard it be defended, people still don't say, oh, it's a good record. They just kind of say, for what it was supposed to be, it's fine, but it's not great, and yet I don't hear a lot of people hate on this thing either. That is their 2008 release, The Red Album, their 6th studio album in their discography. Now, this was a rough time for them because they were coming off the make-believe era, which was the sellout era where they went more pop for some reason or another, and we were all kind of wondering how they were going to follow that up. I mean, it couldn't get any worse.
The fuck is that? I'm dying this fucking country-ass fuck.
And the Red Album kind of saw them return to form on the whole power pop thing, and it was released on June 3rd, 2008. It was headlined by the singles Troublemaker and Pork and Beans, which we'll get to those in a minute, but you can basically tell what type of album this is going to be, not just from the first song, from the album cover. I mean, look at this. Look at! Patrick Wilson looks like he's going to fucking Hogwarts.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Like, it's just so all over the place, whereas their other self-titled albums, they all kind of look serious in a way, or have this certain, I guess, topic, but with this one, all 4 band members just look different. So you can basically say, oh, this record's telling you it's going to be all over the place, and for the most part it is. I feel like there's songs that stick to one certain thing, and then there's other songs that kind of, you know, go in a bunch of different directions, like the experimentation is definitely there. I think, for example, a couple of the songs where they do the heavy experimentation, The Greatest Man That Ever Lived, I mean, from the hymns to just the sounding like Weezer, and they use like snippets from other songs and kind of change it and make it their own to fit the song. The whole rapping at the beginning by Rivers Cuomo may be a turnoff.
Try to play cool like you just don't care, but soon I'll be playing in your underwear.
But it doesn't happen for that long, so you just kind of give it a pass. But to me, it's still an okay track because it's just 100 different directions it throws you in, and it works in some places, and in others it doesn't. And then you got one of my favorite Weezer songs, I think one of the most underrated, Dreaming, which basically takes you through the life of a child who is just basically dreaming about life and whatever, and I like the fact that, you know, you get Rivers Cuomo, and then once the dream sequence starts, you get Brian Bell kind of singing for a little bit, which is also something new that Weezer tried to do in this record. At some point in the record, all 4 band members get lead vocals on one song. Brian Bell, of course, as I mentioned on Dreamin', he kind of gets co-lead toward the middle of the album, and then on the song Thought I Knew, Scott Schreiner gets lead vocals on Cold Dark World, and Patrick Wilson gets lead vocals on Automatic. Now, for the most part, the songs are fine. I think my least favorite is Cold Dark World, the one that Scott Schreiner sings, because whereas the rest of the album is fun and has these certain stories and topics they're trying to follow, with Cold Dark World, like, I understand where you're coming from. It's about, you know, women having to be fearful for their life because just people can be a little bit unpredictable and scary because a woman may look good, but the lyrics are fucking creepy. Like, that's the one turnoff about this song. However, it still sounds like a Weezer song, as does Automatic. You can picture Rivers Cuomo singing these. Brian Bell's song, even though good and probably my second favorite of the other band members singing, sounds the least like a Weezer song on here. Like, everything else on the record sounds like Weezer, but with this Brian Bell track, it just kind of feels misplaced, like it doesn't belong. Even, like I said, even though I like it, and I understand, I think I'd heard that Brian Bell wrote this for one of his side projects, and it ended up on here, and he's even re-recorded it on his side project, but for some reason, just I wasn't feeling the Weezer aspect to it. I'm like, I just don't understand how this made a Weezer album in general. But yeah, it's still good. The lyrical content on a lot of these songs too, again, I think you can get away with it, or they can get away with it because they intended to make it silly. I mean, Troublemaker has some of the most cringiest lyrics like this.
Who needs stupid books? They are for petty crooks. Don't let me play football. I'll sack the quarterback and jack the brother of the ball. You wanted arts and crafts, houses for arts and crafts. That's right, Mary in a biatch, having 7 kids.
And you get on the song, what was it? I think it was, oh yeah, Everybody Get Dangerous. One of the first lines is, I would go out and tip cows. Oh no, I actually didn't tip the cows because I didn't want to hurt them, but my friends did it. Like, any other time you would hear that, if this was an album that was supposed to be taken seriously, you'd go, that's fucking stupid. But with an album like this, it's not that you kind of like sway it under the rug because it's still kind of stupid. But again, you've been listening to the album and you understand that this is silly. There's some serious moments, but for the most part, it's silly. They're basically Weezer trying to, I guess, best attempt at trying to make a comedy album in this case, and it has mixed reviews, and to this day, even 13 years after the fact, people are still unsure how they feel about it, because some people say that, you know, it has some of the more underrated Weezer songs on here, and even Pork and Beans is one of their more popular, newer singles to date. I think that's the biggest song on the album, and it really did its thing as to what the album was to be. But other people are saying, yeah, but, you know, I mean, I can't sing along to these songs because the lyrics are just dumb. There's that creepy song in there. A lot of people say Cold Dark World is one of the worst Weezer songs. I mean, I would have to agree, I guess, in this case, but that's mainly, like I said, lyric-wise. Other than that, I like the dark atmosphere and whatnot. But yeah, Weezer's Red Album. Now we're gonna see how I feel about it in general, and really with me, it's a mixed bag, and again, my mood depends on how I, like, truly would end up feeling about it. There could be days where I listen to it and, you know, do enjoy it, but there can be other days where I'm listening to it and I'm just like, I don't want to go through this again. It's just such an up and down record of proportions, a passable record, because again, when the experimentation works, it works, especially on some of the longer songs on here, but then you get these shorter songs that are fun, and minus Pork and Beans, and like I said, maybe even Troublemaker, it's just kind of like, what else do we have in store here other than trying to be silly? Like, a lot of the songs don't sound like they don't have a deep meaning, but with Rivers Cuomo, everything does, and, you know, that can make me enjoy the album more, but for the most part, there's times in my life where I don't want to listen to silly stuff, I want to listen to more serious things, and with Weezer's Red Album you get a little bit of both, so if you're not in the mood for one but in the mood for the other, it can definitely be a very, very tough listen overall. But yeah, this is probably the most unique Weezer record to date though, because again, this is the only record of theirs where all 4 band members sing at any point in time, take lead vocals, which I guess you can say this was their attempt at trying to replicate the Beatles or Kiss with that, where all the band members get involved in something, and I think it's their most ambitious. Like, every record after that, and even before that they put out, had a certain sound to it, like you knew what you were getting, you knew what to expect. But with the Red Album, it's their one album, I think, where you just don't know what's going to hit you next. Like, you can turn another corner and it can be something completely different in this case, whereas all the other albums, like the Black Album, even though people hate it, it still had a theme that it was set to, and a sound that they wanted you to hear. Van Weezer was the whole, you know, ode to classic heavy metal and all this kind of stuff. OK Human was the more orchestral, and of course you got the more nerdy Blue Album, or the emo Pinkerton. Like, you know, it all had their set sounds except for this one, and that's why I think when it comes to this record, it's underrated, but I don't think it's too underrated, because again, this isn't one of the best Weezer records out there, but when it comes to ambition and wanting to do different things, I definitely feel like there should be some credit given there, because after what happened with Make Believe, where most fans were like, yeah, I'm gonna have to pass on this, they kind of reeled us back in with a nice, fun album that we knew they could make, with also some dark tinges on it as well, and some serious songs that had multiple parts to them, multiple sections, to kind of tell this story. And I think it has one of their best album closers ever, with The Angel in One. It's almost 7 minutes long, and my goodness, it goes very well. Like, they don't usually hit on album closers, in my opinion, but this one is definitely the one. When I am listening to a Weezer record from start to finish, I'm looking forward to the last track on the record because I know I'm just going to be blown away and amazed. So, yeah, that's basically it with this. I would really like to hear your opinions in the comments below. What do you think about this album? Because there's also moments too where when Patrick Wilson sings, Rivers Cuomo takes drums on tracks 7 and 9 because Wilson also plays guitar on track 7. But yeah, do you think that this Weezer record is good or bad? Do you think it's their most ambitious and experimentative? And overall, just how has it held up over the years? Because it's been out for 13 years. We've been able to judge it for long enough, and yet people can't seem to figure out what the hell kind of Weezer record this is, or they can't put it in any certain, like, tier of Weezer records. Because, like I said, a Weezer record's either good or bad, and then there's this one where you're just kind of like, I don't know. I really don't know. So, yeah. That's it for me. Stay safe out there, and until then, I will catch you all in the next one.